Coming up on today's show, the 2019 Hyundai Kona is introduced to the US. Nissan gets reprimanded for their Leaf electric car advert. And why EU regulations have taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In fact, wherever you are in the world, hello and welcome to EV News Daily, Thursday, 11th of October 2018. Martyn Lee here, and I've been through every EV story today, so you don't have to. I'm saving you time when you think about it. And I've had lots of time today because I've been sitting on a plane for 2.5 hours, coming back from Stockholm in Sweden, back to London, then back on the train and back home to the south coast in the UK, and back in the little home studio at the bottom of the garden to record a podcast for you. Hope you're having a lovely day, whatever you're doing today. Thank you to myev.com for helping make this show. I would love to have that kind of facility, certainly here in the UK, but if you're lucky enough to live in North America, you can use it to buy and sell and learn about used EVs. Totally free marketplace that really simplifies things. Thank you to yet another Patreon executive producer. We're edging our way towards a big round number with Patreon. If you want to go and have a look at patreon.com/evnewsdaily. We haven't quite got there yet, but we're getting there. I can't say who they are, by the way. Thank you to my mystery benefactor. Well, I know who they are, but I can't tell you who they are because they've said, please don't say my name. Anyway, moving on. The 2019 Hyundai Kona was introduced today in the US to US media, and the Kona, which has been on sale in many places, is finally being introduced in Southern California. The 2019 Hyundai Kona Electric is produced in Korea, in Ulsan in Korea, and it's going to be available at the very beginning of next year. Not long to wait now, with initial availability in California and subsequently in those zero emissions, those ZEV or ZEV, if I'm talking US, focused states in the western and northeastern regions of the US market. Well, the Kona Electric powertrain has a high efficiency 150 kilowatt permanent magnet synchronous electric motor, 201 horsepower, and it is supplied by the high voltage 64 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery, and in North America only the 64 kilowatt hour battery. You're not getting the standard range one, you're only getting the long range battery. Well, that battery system is liquid cooled though, those cells coming from LG Chem, operating at 356 volts. And I'll tell you why that is important, I reckon, in the next 90 seconds. Well, the battery pack energy density is 141 watt-hours per kilogram. That's greater than the Chevy Bolt, and it's got a total battery system weight of about 1,000 pounds. In addition, the Kona Electric EPA measured range is 132 MPGe in the city, 108 MPGe on the highway, 120 MPGe combined. The Kona Electric utilises a standard level 2 onboard charger, 7.2 kilowatts for charging, and when you are wanting some rapid, the Kona Electric estimated range is 258 miles on the EPA range. Well, hang on, it says estimated range. Yes, no, it must be now. It must be fully EPA'd up. So 258 miles is the US figure, meeting the various needs, they say, of different lifestyles. An 80% charge, and here's the key phrase. Okay, I think this is going to get them, it's going to bite them on the bum one day, but anyway. I mean, it already has kind of bitten them on the bum with journalists who don't understand what this means. An 80% charge can be achieved in 54 minutes with a level 3 quick charge. That is 0 to 80% charge. This is the phrase, at 100 kilowatt charging capacity, using the combo charging port, and a 7.2 kilowatt level 2 charger is 9 hours 35 minutes. Let's go take a step back though. This is the key thing I was telling you about. They give all of their figures on a 100 kilowatt charging post. Now, thank you very much to Dr. Max, who writes for Clean Technica, who we shared some emails a little while ago, actually, and we were working out the exact way that this should be worded. So, because I said it once on the podcast, loads of websites say it all of the time because they say that, and if you don't understand it, what they say is the Hyundai Kona has 100 kilowatt charge speeds. It doesn't, it can't, because it has, as I mentioned, that 356 volt battery pack. So, the way it works on CCS 1.0, the protocol that is used pretty much everywhere at the moment, has a maximum current of 200 amps. So that is the socket current that can be supplied. The voltage of the pack is 356 volts. Therefore, the power is limited to 71.2 kilowatts charge speed, because that's the conversion that's done. 200 amps is the limit of those CCS1, the protocol, nearly all of those chargers. Now, there is CCS 2.0, and that takes the current up to 500 amps. Make sure I get that right. Somebody will correct me and go, no, you're off. And the kilowatt is up to 375, or that kind of region. Right. So more current and more power. But at the moment, nearly all of the chargers that you can use will be limited to 200 amps. Therefore, the Kona can't charge any quicker than 71.2 kilowatts. So if you see a website, if you see someone saying, oh, it's got 100 kilowatt charging, it doesn't. But what Hyundai say is when you are connected to a 100 kilowatt post, which I think confuses people. It confused the life out of me for a while. Anyway, moving on. Another car that perhaps got a little bit confused. Early owners of it that are unhappy would use rather more fruity language than the word confused. Nissan's advert for its Leaf electric car has been banned over misleading claims about the time needed to charge the battery, writes Ben Chapman for The Independent here in the UK. Now, Nissan's website claimed the Leaf could charge at up to 80% of full capacity between 40 and 60 minutes. And then there was a footnote explaining this was dependent on a number of conditions, including the battery temperature and size, the ambient temperature and the type of charger. Well, Nissan said the ad did not specifically state that the battery would be charged to 80% within the hour, clearly qualifying any claim by making clear that the timings were dependent on other factors. Well, that's not the way that many early buyers of the 40 kilowatt hour Leaf read it. They read it as between 40 and 60 minutes, 80%, because that was what was the big headline. And then what happened is people started getting the cars, and there's several YouTube videos that went online really quickly, and from people as well who really know their EVs. So, although I've never driven the 40 kilowatt hour Leaf, and although I've never charged it multiple times, so people were saying to me, why aren't you making a big deal about this on the podcast? I have no personal experience of the issue that was being raised. Therefore, I can't make fair comment. If I start accusing Nissan of making shoddy products, they would have every right to seek recourse on that, or say, have you got some proof yourself? And I can't say, well, I watched a YouTube video, because how do I know that's true? Although I do trust those people in it, people like Jonathan from EcoCars, who I think he knows his EVs slightly better than I do. So, but I didn't make those claims at the time, and I took some flack from people saying you're not standing up for the EV community by really giving Nissan a hard time for this. I just couldn't, because I didn't have any. If I'd have got one myself, experienced Rapidgate myself, I could have made fair comment, and that would have been my legal defence. Anyway, so we had to move on with that, and it turns out that people did complain, and it's to do with charging the car multiple times and the temperature of the battery, which I think I can say now without getting into trouble. So, giving the Advertising Standards Authority had some complaints, 3 complaints. They disagreed with Nissan, by the way, and so they upheld those complaints, and the advert has now been banned. Nissan, to give them their right of reply, and I'll give you their reply, it says this: we were very disappointed by the ruling made by the ASA, although of course we will respect their decision. We constantly review and react to customer feedback to ensure that we're giving the very best possible service and information. Isn't that wonderfully corporate? End quote, by the way. Wonderfully corporate. Anyway, sometimes you just want companies to speak like human beings, like some say Tesla do, rather than just being the corporate machine that nearly every company in every country is, that corporate machine. And so it did get investigated with people that I'm friends with and on Twitter and in contact with. Yes, they were contacted, and yes, they had some dialogue with Nissan, but I think most of them still feel pretty upset, to be honest with you, about not being able to go on a long road trip and charge their Nissan Leaf multiple times. And I think I would feel exactly the same if I'd spent my good money on a car that I felt wasn't really fit for the purpose that I'd been told. So that is the end of the case. That's Nissan's response, and that is where it will be left. There is no other recourse apart from this. Isn't anything legal, if you like. This is the Advertising Standards Authority saying you can't run the advert, and so they won't be running the advert. That is the situation. It has probably given Nissan a bloody nose. Will it materially harm the Leaf? I think when the Model 3 goes on sale in Europe, that'll do more harm to Leaf sales. It certainly hasn't helped, and had it not been for that, well, maybe more people would have bought the Nissan Leaf. But maybe some of them held back and went, you know what, I'll just hang on. Maybe there's a 60 kilowatt hour version coming at some point. That's got battery cooling or active thermal management, so maybe I'll wait. So it certainly hasn't helped the situation, and it's given us some pretty rubbish PR online. Well, a recap on the news last week. The European Commission wanted to have more relaxed emissions regulations, but the European Parliament, keep up. So the European Commission is one person from every 28 states. Then the European Parliament is over 700 elected officials. So the Commission wanted relaxed emissions because certain countries, I can't think who they would be, didn't want to affect their industry. The European Parliament, which is hundreds of elected people, said, no, we want stricter emissions targets. Germany have been lobbying particularly hard for no more than 30% reduction in CO2 targets, and they have a massive diesel industry to protect. Well, Associated Press says that officials from the Council of EU member governments and the Parliament and the Executive Commission were negotiating today in the wake of the Environment Ministers' agreement late on Tuesday. This is a whole other thing. The Environment Ministers on Tuesday decided to make a compromise, and that would be carbon dioxide emission reduction of 35%. So between the 30% that the Germans were lobbying for and the 40% that the European Parliament wanted, they met them just in the middle. From 2021 onwards, a 35% reduction. A reduction from what? I'm yet to clarify because I've seen some different speculation online. I can't find it. It's probably buried on like page 800 of something official. But I'll carry on looking into that. 35% reduction from what? From 2021. I think probably the old NEDC way of measuring cars, I imagine. Anyway, I don't know. I'm making that up. So the Commission had initially proposed 30%. The Parliament was 40%, and talks in progress now to reach a final agreement before the end of the year. European officials expressed disappointment that the 35% goal agreed on under the compromise wasn't tougher, especially following the UN's climate panel urgently worded warning on Monday earlier this week about the far-reaching consequences of failing to contain global warming. But the European Auto Industry Association said that while car makers support reducing greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, the proposed reduction risks harming auto workers and their companies' competitiveness. Boo-hoo! It said that 3.4 million jobs in automotive manufacturing represent 11% of total EU manufacturing employment. The German Association of the Automotive Industry, which represents those major automakers like BMW, Daimler and Volkswagen, said 35% agreement among governments missed the chance to formulate the regulation in a way that's realistic technically and economically. And what a shame they didn't leave. They mentioned the technical regulations and the economic impact. What a shame they didn't mention the 7 million people who die every single year, according to the World Health Organization, because of the crap that's in the air. And it makes me furious that people's livelihoods, they have to feed their family, they have to earn a good living, they work for car companies and auto companies. The hundreds of thousands of people who will be affected by this, who work for the car companies, are good people. And decisions were made way above them, and that very much annoys me. So we need to protect jobs, we need to protect people's livelihoods, and we need to do the right thing for other human beings, not what is technically possible. What's technically possible now is to build an amazing electric car. Anyone can do it if you had your head screwed on a few years ago, and now you're trying to pull battery contracts out of your backside and catch up. If you are indeed trying to catch up, and it's not just a press release headline that you are doing. These cars are available now, and they're saying they're trying to, it's all smoke and mirrors and pull the wool over lawmakers' eyes and say, it can't be done. Technically, it can't be done. It can absolutely be done. And it's the right thing. If you do the right thing and end up on the right side of history, we'll all be okay. But like I say, we need to worry about lots of people's jobs, and I'm very, very sympathetic to all those people who work for those diesel makers. In Denmark, plans to postpone tax increases on EVs as part of a slew of new measures of government. The government is seeking to consolidate the country's reputation as a green pioneer in Denmark to help its climate goals, according to Bloomberg. The measures are amongst 38 different proposals that ministers in the Prime Minister's centre-right government put forward on Tuesday to reduce the CO2 emissions by 37 million tonnes. They're not just doing the talking, they're putting 38 different proposals in to reduce emissions. Let's hear from Elon's ex, and I'm not talking about Justine Musk. I'm talking about his ex-business partner. Elon Musk's outbursts are his pushback against the status quo. His ex-colleague Reid Hoffman has said to CNBC, Elon Musk is focused on 3, 5 and 10 years into the future, said the LinkedIn co-founder. Now, he worked alongside Elon Musk at the online payment system PayPal. He said part of Elon's grit, part of his determination to get to that long future is to push back, end quote. And it's what I said on the podcast before, not quite so eloquently, is if you want all the stuff that comes with the genius, you've got to accept everything else that comes with it. Well, finally, Bollinger have announced their B2. Nothing like announcing a car before your previous car's even on sale. Now they've got two that you can't buy. The Model Y. The Tesla Semi and the Bollinger B2. It's a pickup truck designed by someone with a pencil and a ruler, by the look of it, because this thing's all straight lines. The cab is a box. The windows are square. It's on top of a box with the pickup bed, which is a box. And the front, that's another big box. This thing's just been done with a straight line. Bollinger tweeted earlier, the all-electric, all-wheel drive Bollinger B2 pickup truck has the same DNA as the B1. Both trucks sport dual motors, all-wheel drive, hydro-pneumatic suspension, in-wheel portal gear hubs, and 120 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Reserve it now at bollingermotors.com. Then, following that tweet, they made this statement. The new B2 incorporates everything that we've learned in making the B1 and takes it in an exciting new direction. It's always been the plan to have both the B1 and the B2 start our lineup. Now that we've so much incredible data from testing our B1 prototype, we can put all of that knowledge and engineering into our final four-door B1 and B2 vehicles. It's the pickup I always wanted and something crazy better than what's available on the market today, end quote. And I'll put a link to all of the stories in today's podcast in the show notes. If you want to have a little look for yourself, I'd urge you to do that. I urge you to check out myev.com. They've posed this week's question of the week. Please do join in with this. Here's the question I would love you to answer. What incentives are available where you live? Now, we have listeners all over the world. What incentives are available where you live? Which ones have you taken advantage of? And which ones do you think are the most worthwhile? On a local or national level, you can leave a comment on the YouTube comments or Facebook, and the feedback form on my blog is pretty easy to use, evnewsdaily.com. You can just straight up email me if you want to, which is hello@evnewsdaily.com. That's hello@evnewsdaily.com. Well, thank you very much to every patron of the podcast who means, their generosity means we get to make this show. And if you want to check it out, patreon.com/evnewsdaily. If you haven't become aware of that website before, then maybe it's just a little thing you want to have a look at. What's Patreon all about? Well, have a look and you'll see if it's the kind of thing that you want to support creators in what they do. I know that it's enormously appreciated from people who are making something every day for you. There are 261 previous episodes of this podcast online for free. It will always be free, by the way, and if you want to download any of them, they're on all the places where you get your podcasts from. If you have 2 minutes to spare, I know you're so busy, you haven't got 2 minutes, but if you've got 2 minutes to spare, a little review on iTunes always helps. And if you want to come and hang out on the socials, do so. Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.